Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nix and coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today. We got a really good one for y'all. Slack. We got the YSL vocal chain right here that we about to go over today. Let me show you what it sounds like with and without it. If you guys do have any requests by any chance, let me know down below in the link. That's all we do around here is kill these vocal chains, and we also provide value to you. You know, I'm still gonna give you the information. You know, so let's keep going with this series. Drop some ideas down below for the next vocal chain I want to see in the next video. All right, so let's play it with and without.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip, hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim, fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name, I wanna get him some strength. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these clothes, start watching your chain. Oh, man.
All right, so let me show you how you can get that smooth, saucy sound, that trap sound, but smooth though, with some vibes, some swag, you know, that was Gunna and YSL is mostly known for. Let me play it without this right here. We also got some ad-libs we're gonna go over, but I'm gonna play it without the lead vocal chain so you can hear where we came from.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip, hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim, fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name, I wanna get him some strength. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these clothes, start watching your chain. Oh, man.
So as you can see, went from a boomy, you know, just not too crazy home vocal recording to something that sounded professional, clean, very sharp and bright, but very smooth at the same time. So the very first thing that we got here today is with the basic EQ. We got an REQ, nothing complicated. The only thing I wanted to talk about is just the high pass filter. You know, like I love using actually the low pass filter. I love using the low pass filter in a way to control the top of the vocal, right? And depending on the slope, you know, it will change the characteristic of how bright, you know, the initial transients of the vocals coming out through. So I always love to play with the Q, and not on this EQ specifically, but maybe like another one, I changed the octaves and the deepness of the octaves. So, you know, a low pass isn't all about just letting, controlling room noise. That's another great thing about it. But I love to use this to control it tonally, you know. Tonally, you know, you got to always think about it, because if you make something with a little bit more of this filter, it will definitely sound darker, right? But in the process of you doing that, right, you could use the EQ in a very powerful way, right, in comparison to your background vocals, right? You could make your lead vocal sound dark to make your ad-lib sound brighter, if you know what I mean. You know, being an engineer is like being a real estate agent. You have to give the audience binary cues to where everything is at. You got to say, hey, the door's right here. Hey, you know, the bedroom is right here. Hey, the bathroom is right here. Like, you as the engineer, your responsibility is like a real estate agent, and the song is the house pretty much. You got to showcase the audience where everything is. And sometimes you have to make it blatantly obvious. Okay, my lead vocal is dark and my ad-libs are going to be bright, you know, to give the listener some contrast, right? So they can understand, okay, this is what's bright, this is what's this, and this is what's this. You know, you have to give them binarily cues. So just always remember that, you know, you got to give them some ear cues and some checkpoints and make it very obvious. So the next thing that we have right here is the RVox. Nothing crazy. I just used the RVox to, mostly gate it out and use a little bit of compression. Another great trick that you can use with the RVox, right, is you can actually, to never fool yourself with levels, you can highlight it like this. And bam, you know, there you go. You would have instant, you know, level match compression, so you could really hear everything and understand that this is a compressor and this is a limiter. So you should not really necessarily be looking for a compressed sound, maybe more of the tone, you know. Does it make it sound fatter, more aggressive, or, you know, what it kind of does to the low end of the vocal? That's why I love the RVox a lot. And the next thing that we had is a C4. Nothing crazy. You know, how I always start up on the C4 is I open the default preset and I just start playing around with the bands a little bit, and you know, it kind of got us there. I always try to attack the mid bass because with Gunna it sounds very clean, but you could still feel the presence in his voice, and a part of that presence is the mid-range, controlling the mid-range, right? So in my opinion, this is my opinion, the higher mids is usually like the character of the vocal, you know, like the way that the brain kind of distinguishes, oh, okay, yeah, you know, this is his swag, the or oh, he going in, you know. The high mids is an important frequency for the character of a vocal, in my opinion, you know, and the lower spectrum is more like the kind of like the proximity for me, in my opinion. Again, you know, don't ever let anybody ever tell you that, oh, this is this and this is that. When it comes to engineering, you got to do what makes you feel best in your heart, you know. Like at one point in time, music was being made without plugins, so the plugins don't matter, right? And then there was another time before that where music was being made without hardware, so the hardware doesn't matter. So if you really think about it, from the very beginning of humanity, the only thing that has ever mattered to make music is right here, your heart. So you got to put your heart into your mixes, all right? And that's the biggest ingredient out of all. Then we have a CLA vocals right here. I'm loving this plugin a lot. It gave me a lot of color. So this one, I'm actually going to bring it in and out for the CLA vocals.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip, that make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim, fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some straight. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch don't go crazy, cause we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these close cars. I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip, that make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim, fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some straight. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch don't go crazy, cause we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these close cars, watching your chain. Oh man.
So nothing complicated really. I just took out a little bit of bass. You guys need to understand that you know, I was very meticulous about using this plugin. I took out a little bit of bass to make it feel like the vocal was sitting a little bit more back, right? So, you know, the example I always make is when somebody's all the way halfway across the room, think about what type of frequencies you hear. You mostly hear like smooth type of high end and you know, a lack of low end. So in a situation like this, I pulled out a little bit of bass, you know. I wanted the vocal to sit a little bit more back, so I took out a little bit of low frequencies. Now, sometimes what you can do is you can boost low frequencies, like maybe you have like some background vocals, right? And in contrast, it will make the lead vocal sound like it's actually skinnier. So that's what I'm talking about, creating checkpoints, you know, being a real estate agent. When you're an engineer, you got to show the audience, okay, this is the door, this is the back house, this is the bedroom, this is, you know, you got to kind of make it obvious, right? So in a situation like this too, you know, we just used a little bit of a pitch widening, and I love the way this plugin sounds. Sometimes I like to push the input a little bit harder, but in a situation like this, I didn't need to do it. And a little bit of a small amount of shiny top, right? So, you know, we kind of got the same amount. You know, what we took out is what we put back in, and that's what I'm always focused on with EQ, is trying to get a proportionate amount. You know, if I take one step forward, I want to take one step back somewhere else, right? So that's always my mindset when I'm doing EQ and stuff like that. And a little bit of compression, just doing a little bit more filtering. Let's hear what it sounds like with and without.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip, that make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim, fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some straight. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch don't go crazy, cause we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these close cars, watching your chain. Oh man.
So that's what I'm doing. Again, you know, Gunner's sound and Young Thug's sound as well, it's a very laid back swag song, you know, and a part of making a vocal sit back in the mix is what I'm talking about today, you know, just you know, getting right with the low end. For me, it was easy to get good with the low end because like when I rap, my voice is kind of deep. So like in the beginning of me engineering for myself and other people, like it was always like trying to get the low end of the vocal right, because in my opinion, the low end of the vocal is so important to establishing the positioning, not just necessarily making it sound clean and professional. It's not always about that. Sometimes what it's about is just having the song fit, you know. The vocal is like a shoe. The vocal's like a foot and the music is like the shoe. So I'm trying to make that vocal fit into the music, right? So that's why I believe it's very important to, you know, concentrate on the low end of a vocal. Some people don't have a deep voice, so they don't really have to too much worry all the time about rolling off too much low end. But I don't want you to necessarily see it as in a way or like, oh, I'm trying to make this clean. It definitely is about that too. But the main thing about it is trying to make a vocal fit into the music, right? And that low end information is pretty much important too, because it's actually the power. It contains the power of a vocal, you know, low end, right? So always be cautious about how much low end you roll off, and understand that you can go to other places like the lower mid to enhance the low end, right? So sometimes I like to take off a little bit of low mids to make the lower end sound a little bit more apparent, depending on where it's at. You know, you don't always have to boost. Sometimes you can just cut and your ear will perceive it as more low end, you know? So it's like I'm saying, you know, showcasing the listener these things, you know, and that's important as an engineer for you to do. And another trick we did right here, we turned the threshold all the way up. We got some of that saturation in there. So that's a waves trick as well. You know, you turn up this right here and you will get a little bit of saturation, a little bit of color, right? All right, so let's jump into the effects real fast. First thing that we have right here is a mono delay, right? So this is like my slap, right? And so this is creating a sense of space, but it's only in the mid channel, right? Because it's mono, right? So it's not spreading out too far. Sometimes you should be cautious of if you use a stereo or mono delay, because it can take up space. Sometimes if you want to create space, you got to actually not fill up your whole song with unnecessary junk. Okay, so that's why I picked the mono delay versus the stereo for my slap. So let's listen to it.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip. Hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim. Fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name, I wanna get him some straight. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Please don't go carry, go win out the same. Don't wanna no game, make it clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name.
So y'all have an idea of what it's doing. Just creating some space in the mid channel, kind of creating a little bit of separation, letting the audience know that, hey, this is the front door for the vocal. All right, so remember I said that. All right, so the next thing that we have right here is our delay matrix, kind of. So what I did is I have a 1/8 note delay going into a this is what I love about Studio Rack. You can do a parallel split on the bus, and then I have a CLA vocals, which is taking out a little bit of bass, adding a little bit of reverb, which is a chamber. So the reverb is a very good way to help push the delay back in a mix, right? Just kind of give it a little bit of wash, especially because with the beat, right, as an engineer, you got to understand what the beat has. So the beat is already very atmospheric, it's already very spacey and vibey, so I don't want to have a delay that's going to take attention away from the beat, right, or the vocal either. So I used the reverb to kind of wash up my delay a little bit, right? Next thing that we have is a sidechain compressor, pushing it down, and let's listen to what this sounds like with and without.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip. Hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim. Fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name, I wanna get him some straight. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Please don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no game, make it clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War for these clothes, start watching your chain. Oh, man.
So you hear that I'm using the delay to kind of create a new tempo. The whoa, 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 whoa. It's kind of like boiling. It's giving you a even more feeling of waviness, but I just brought it back down a little bit, right? So with the R compressor, let's understand why I picked electro. This is an 1176 on the R comp, right? It's sidechained right here to the input of the Studio Rack, and pretty much I'm doing somewhere around 10 dB, but I'm picking the electro over the opto because I know 1176 is very fast. So you need to use your tools with intention, right? And always understand that, right? And the ratio is a very light ratio, but the attack is very quickly. So I'm using this as a way to really duck that delay, but in a musical way, because I still want you to feel the high amount of feedback that I have. You hear there's a lot of feedback, so I'm filling up a little space, right? And the last thing that we got is the S1 stereo imager, and I'm tilting it a little bit, right? I'm tilting it a little bit because I know as an engineer right now, I'm about to send my ad-libs a little bit to that space on the other side. So you got to think ahead of time as an engineer. You know, I'm using my S1 stereo imager to tilt my delay a little bit because I know I'm about to send the ad-lib to the other side. So, you know, always make moves with intention. Try to think one step ahead, but still always make sure that step that you're on, right, is a good step, right? Like I said again, you're being the real estate agent as the engineer. I just told the beat is telling the listener that, you know, this is the front door, but me as an engineer, I'm telling the audience that the vocal is the back door, right? So you understand that the beat is here and the vocal is here, you know, because we're making checkpoints. Next thing that we have right here is a parallel compression, but we're using the SSLE channel. So this is a different way you can use the SSLE. You know, you have a lot of great plugins, especially with waves, and sometimes you got to think outside of the box with this, you know. Right now, I'm only using this SSLE as a parallel compressor. To add density and a limiter, right? Let's listen.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip. Hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim. Fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some strength. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch, don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick, and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these close cards, watching it.
All right, cool. And the next thing I did is I enhanced my SSL with a little bit of saturation. I used the fresh air, right? So I recommend when you do parallel compression that you try to add a little something to it. You can add a little bit of EQ. Watch out for phase, like I always say. And I think a better alternative to make the parallel compressor be bright would have been in this situation just using some saturation. So this is a free plugin that I will, you know, if by any chance y'all want the link to this template, you can go ahead and get it, and you will see the free link to get this plugin. So Fresh Air, incredible. I love using it in parallel because I just, you know, on insert, it's cool. You can push it lightly, but I'm the type of guy, I love pushing it hard because it just gives me this grittiness, this graininess, this texture, right? And you have to understand that texture is important as an engineer. The reason why texture is important as an engineer is because it helps your ear, the audience's ear, differentiate the levels of the vocal, right? So I have my lead vocal, but then I have a little bit of parallel compression in contrast to it. And that parallel compression is really bright. So it's giving me more of the clarity without the side effects of me putting it on direct insert. So that's a good thing right here. And another spare thing we had is a flanger, just kind of giving it some waviness. I'm not going too hard with the flanger, but a little bit of waviness. Gunna, he loves using phasers, flangers, all of that stuff, and it just creates more of the swag, mellow, YSL slap sound. Next thing, let's talk about our ad-libs right here, right? Let's listen to it with and without.
I shine in the dark, it's easy to slip. Don't want you to fall, walking with that drip. Hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim. Fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some strength. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch, don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick, and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these close cards, watching your chain. Oh, man. Wall. Shoot your shit with that drip. Want you to fall, walking with that drip. Hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit.
All right, so let's talk about this SSL, right? But we're using a little bit of compression, and we're using the fast attack as well to take off a little bit of that top, you know, take off a little bit of impact from the ad-libs.
Want you to fall, walking with that drip. Hey, make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim. Fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some strength. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch, don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick, and clap for a name. I trap for a living and been have my name. War off for these close cards, watching your chain. Oh, man.
Yeah, so we're using the fast attack. You see that we kind of smoothed it out, and you got to understand too, with the fast attack, it just pushed the ad-libs back. So the way a compressor handles that initial transient can also determine the distance. So it's not just about EQing and filters, it's also about the compression that can say, hey, you know, these ad-libs are the back door, you know? So that's another way. EQ, compression, saturation. These are all ways for you as the engineer to tell the listener, hey, this is right there, and make it very blatantly obvious. As you see right here, my compression is very aggressive, and the release is fast. That's generally a rule that I like to do, is having a fast release compressor on the ad-libs, because you know it's got to let go of it pretty quickly, you know, because it's just the ad-lib. I want to keep that characteristic, right? And then, you know, the same exact kind of moves, but a little bit more drastic, taking out more bottom, a little bit more mid bass, and I cut out a little bit right here. I think this 4 to 5K range is pretty important, because for background vocals, if it starts stacking on top of the lead vocal, it could kind of give an annoying little grungy buildup. Sometimes it sounds good on songs, sometimes it doesn't. In a situation, we took it out. All right, let's move on. Then we have the CLA vocals, a very versatile plugin right here, cutting out more bottom, cutting out a little bit of top as well. Then I just used the reverb from the CLA vocals. I think it's very important to pick a different reverb for your background vocals, because this is coming back to the main idea of the video, giving the listener cues, letting them know that, hey, this is a different room from the living room, right? So my lead vocal is kind of like my living room, and my ad-libs are kind of like my back bedroom. So that's why I picked a different reverb, right? I picked a different reverb to make it blatantly obvious to the listener, hey, this is here and this is all the way here. So now I'm creating my sound stage, right? And the listener is falling into that sound stage. Next thing, you know, same thing applies to the delay. I'm picking a different delay. I mean, even though it might be the same time, I love the CLA vocals because it's giving me less options. It just sounds good right away. And the delay is kind of contrasting from the H delay that I already previously had. And yeah, that's pretty much it. After that, we have a flanger, but on direct insert, because I wanted to give it some texture, just making it distinguish. And let's hear what it sounds like with and without.
Want you to fall, walking with that drip, and make out a wall. Shoot your shit up, I got accurate aim, fucked up a few. Now I'm back where I came. That boy said my name on, get him some strength. You know I don't crash, I just stay in my lane. Bitch don't go carry, go, we not the same. Don't wanna no gimmick, get clap for a name. I trap for a living, and been have my name. War off for these clothes, start watching your chain. Oh man.
You hear that little modulation? That's another reason why I picked the flanger stomp as well, is because it modulated my reverb, you know, strategically. The reverb is not over here on the parallel side because I wanted actually the reverb to go into the flanger to give it some texture, right? So now that I have a whole new reverb, and that whole new reverb has its own texture, so now the listener can say, wow, those ad-libs are like really complimenting. Yeah, because they are giving something different to the lead vocal that it didn't necessarily have. I mean, the lead vocal did have some flanger, but you can use the same thing in 2 different ways to add something brand new. So you know, lastly, the same exact thing as well, parallel compressor, SSLE, the holy grail, channel strip. So this is all that we have here for our video today. Nothing crazy. Last thing, and the last thing I want to just say as well is that the ad-lib patterns, you know, as an engineer, always try to do little ad-lib patterns. Look how I chopped it up. 1, left, right, 1, left, right, 1. So you got to give him some patterns, because you, as the rapper's doing his own flow too, right? You as the engineer, you can have your little flow going on in the background. You creating your own little rhythm with these delays and these EQ moves, you know? So that's another tip for here today. I just can't even fit all these gems that I be dropping. If you do want all of these right here, the lead vocals and the ad-lib preset, drop down to the link down below. You can go ahead and get it. I just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. Appreciate y'all. Peace.